If you're spending 10K a day on ads and your CPA is eating you alive, I'm gonna show you how we help the brand doing 18 million a year liquidate 80% of their acquisition costs at checkout without spending an extra penny of ads. And after working with 50 plus 8-figure brands on their post-purchase funnels, we now know that the difference between break even and 30% net margins isn't just better ads, it's exactly what happens 7 seconds after they click buy now. I want to jump straight into it and just break down the math for you just to show you just how critical post-purchase is for a business of your size. So let's assume you guys are doing like, 10 to $15 million a year. We're going to do 10 to 15. Post-purchase funnels, if you're doing them correctly, should be about 15 to 20% of your revenue. So 15 to 20% of your revenue is going to put you anywhere between, like, if we just do 10 mil for easy math, 1.5 to $2 million in revenue. Now, the biggest thing here that people don't realize and they don't really think about is that you're already paying for the ads to acquire the customer in the first place. So you already got the customer through the door with that initial order, and you've already lost a lot of margin, potentially even are negative, because you had to acquire that customer with paid ads and all that kind of stuff. So with that being said, you're at like 1.5 to 2 million right now when it comes to profit from these funnels. But what's critical is that you're already bringing in this customer, let's say like at a $0 like break even, and we'll go into break even in a second, but you're at break even. Now, when they take this upsell for like $40, this upsell at $40, the way that we set up and how I'm going to show you set these funnels, this is going to be at your gross margin. So this is going to be like anywhere from 60 to 80% profit, net profit. And because this is a product that they're going to add to their original order, that means that the shipping cost here, potentially, depending on how you're fulfilling your products, could be saved, and it could be dramatic as well. So that's just one very important part that I need to mention here. But basically what we're trying to see and say at the end of all this is that this amount right here is going to be about like 60 to 80% margin, which means like, this is easily going to be like 1 to 1.5 million in profit that you're missing out on. And if you're not seeing these numbers right now within your brand, then obviously stick through the rest of the video, because I'm going to show you why and how you should be seeing these kind of numbers. But just wanted to break down the entire math behind it. And the reason why most people don't do this is because genuinely their post-purchase has never been able to hit these kind of numbers of 15 to 20%. So they've never given it the thought process as to like, okay, well, I need to focus on post-purchase, because it just never was something that people do. And the best part about post-purchase and actually optimizing this properly is that it increases your AOV without having any effect on front-end conversion rate, which means your CPA is going to be more or less the exact same, which helps you have way more margin. And what that does is it creates a compounding effect. So because you make more profit per order, which is going to say PPO, profit per order, it then allows you to scale more aggressively to get new customers with higher profit per order, and it repeats the cycle. So it creates a compounding effect where you can take more of that profit that you're generating and use it to acquire a net new customer as well, overall allowing you to scale and outpace your competitors. So what this means for you is obviously you're going to be able to outbid others in your marketplace. So if you're currently advertising, let's say on Meta, you're in an auction. So you're gonna be able to outbid them, pay higher CPAs, because you have way more baked in margin when you fill in all of your upsells, especially your post-purchase ones. And you're just gonna leave them guessing how you're even doing this. The other thing as well is it provides more cash flow, again, to acquire, but also to order bigger volumes from your suppliers and lower your overall cost and increase your margin across the whole business. So it's a net positive any way, shape, or form that you think about it. And that's why I think it's extremely crucial that 8 and 9-figure brands take full advantage of post-purchase funnels. Let's just do some quick math just on the CPA and the actual AOV. Like if you're paying $50 to acquire a customer right now and you have $100 AOV, and you're running at 50% margins, you're basically at break even. So you're ending up with $0. But then when you go and acquire that other customer with that post-purchase funnel of $40 and you're making an extra, $20, or, in this case, we want this to be 60, 70%. Let's just say you're making like 37 or like $35 profit. $35 profit on this order means that you're essentially in the green here about $35, which increased your overall profitability by 35x in this case. But if this was like, $5, it still would have increased it by at least like, 50 to almost 200%. Now, I quickly want to talk about the 3 different layers of which you can liquidate ad spend. So the first one is going to be pre-purchase. So this is obviously, on the product pages, on the actual landing pages, you are showing them these upsells, whether that be, bundle upsells. And again, this is just how I'm better at, showing this stuff. So bundle upsells, you can do, frequently bought with, and then you can have those underneath the button. You can have it within your offer. So it's like buy two, get one free. All these kind of offers are going to be essential on the pre-purchase side to get people through the door and liquidate cost. The second thing happens is what we call like in cart, which basically is like right before checkout. So this is going to be bumps that you're going to have for them in, both in cart and in checkout, kind of both play hand in hand. And this is where you're going to set up a goal for them. So whether that goal be, hit a certain number and then get free shipping, or, hit the, buy 3+ items and get free shipping, or, if you hit a certain number, you're going to get this free gift. And the goal is to have an incentive, and you want to strategically do this where if you upsell somebody something, let's say they've spent $88 with you and they need to get to 100. So this is like $100 and they're at 88. You want to upsell them something that is not necessarily $22, or in this case, $12. You want it to be something that's a little bit more. So you can do something that's like 15, you can do something that's like 17, and you can split test these to get the highest take rate. And if you do this correctly, you should literally be sitting in the range of about 60% of people taking these upsells, which increases your AOV just dramatically on the front end. But then that last step that we just talked about right here comes in, which is the post-purchase funnels. And that's where things actually become interesting, because that's when you can then upsell them products that are, I would say, about like 80 to 90% of the AOV of their initial offer. So if they bought a product from you that's $100, you could upsell them something for $80 or for $90. And if you position it correctly, and I'm going to show you how to do that, you can actually get them to convert. So definitely keep this in mind, especially like if you're a brand that's doing like 8-9 figures. Like these are massive numbers, and these small percentages can add up extremely quickly. I want to quickly touch on the actual things that make post-purchase actually work, and the human psychology aspects of it that are just extremely beautiful, that make post-purchase what it is. And I want to start off with just talking about the couple things that are related to commitment. So customers, when they commit to taking something, it actually allows them, and if I spelt this wrong, bear with me. So when people commit to taking something, it actually makes them way more likely to commit to taking something else. So what we're doing is we're taking their initial commitment, which is a large commitment because they came from a paid ad or something cold, and they've taken the chance and jumped in and bought your product. We're then taking this big ask to basically ask for a little bit like, 10% smaller ask. And this is very specific, and we're doing this for a reason. So a smaller ask that is like, just 10% lower. And if they say yes to that, we're also going to take them to something that is, 10 to 15% lower than that. And it's very strategic and it's very specific that you do the upsells that way, and that you want it to be a commitment ladder. I actually did a whole kind of document with Aftersell about this specifically. We called it the yes ladder. If you Google it, you'll find it. And basically the idea behind it is you want to help them commit more and more. And again, you'll see this is like a compounding negative scale where we're not doing, 10 to 15% of this. We're doing 10 to 15% of this, which is also like, 17% lower than this. The goal is to basically get them down with smaller commitments through and through. And what happens is you actually create a nice experience for the customer, and they don't necessarily sit there in the moment and think that, oh, I'm just being sold to, because everything in this case, and this is going to be very, very crucial, has to be logical. And one of the biggest things between front-end CRO and back-end CRO is front-end CRO, where you're working on landing pages and testing all these different elements. Those are where you're using, emotions. This is where you're using like direct response copywriting to really get someone to take that initial, take advantage of that initial offer and take the purchase. However, on the post-purchase side, it is very much a logical game. You're playing logical warfare with the customer, trying to make offers that sound like a good idea to them and actually are. And the way you do that is you have to understand the customer and then understand what the commitment they made was, both from an emotional and a logical standpoint, and then use those same fundamentals to build these offers very specifically. And what you want to do is play around with a couple of different things here. The first one is going to be products. So this is going to be the different shuffling. So if you're using Aftersell, you usually get upsell 1. So upsell 1, if they say yes, they go to upsell 2. If they say yes, they go to upsell 3. So you're allowed 3 slots. And if they say no, they go to downsell 1. And if they say yes, but then they say no, they go to downsell 2. And this is by far, I would say, the most optimized, because if you go much further than this, it actually hurts the customer. And if you go, more than this, it also might hurt the customer, trigger a lot of refunds. So what you want to do is change the order of these products. So you might put product 1 here, product 2 here, product 3 here. You might put product 3 here, product 2 here, product 1 here. You want to play around with the order of these products, because based off of what they bought initially, this is going to change their conversion rate dramatically. So you want to make sure that you shuffle these around, and sometimes the funnel that you don't think works actually works, so definitely try all of them. And the goal is to shuffle around a bunch of these products to decide which one works best. If your store is doing, less than 2,000 or 3,000 orders a day, then you basically want to, prioritize putting all of the traffic to go to one funnel rather than going to multiple funnels, because otherwise it's going to take forever for you to test stuff. So you want to test the different, different aspects or the different, order of products. The second one you want to do is offers/pricing. So what you're going to do is, now that you found the products that work, the goal is to now go into offers and pricing and test different offers. So you can do buy one, get one free. You can do buy one, get one 50% off. You can do, buy one, get two free. You can do, things like, save 70% off, save 30% off. You can make it, if it's 2 of them, you say, save 50% per item or something like that. The goal is to test different offers and different prices to find what works. After you find what works, you can move into angles and copywriting. And this is basically where you're going to be testing different angles and different copywriting on the actual pages. And this is going to be around, like, if somebody bought a back pain product, you can upsell them something for neck pain, but they're not just going to take it. You're going to have to convince them logically why they should. So you might, do some research and figure out that you can link neck pain to back pain and say that, most of back pain originates from neck pain. And if you really solve the root cause, you then, are able to, heal that much easier and help it, stay for longer. And the goal with these upsells is always to help them achieve the dream desire, either faster or quicker, cheaper, or make it last longer. So for example, if something that's going to come back or whatever, then you can use these angles to try to get people to buy again. And then after that, you're going to do UI, and this is where we're going to be testing different elements. So you can do like progress bars at the top. We can do a lot more kind of advertorial style, more content in there, really sell the product to them before pitching it to them. We can test different buy box strategies, different pricing strategies, all that kind of stuff. And then the last thing is what we call segmentation. And this is where we're basically going to segment traffic based off of what they bought. So if you're a store that has multiple different SKUs, you're basically going to have the traffic set up based off of those SKUs, where if somebody buys this product, they see this funnel. If somebody buys this product, they see this funnel. Or if you're just a brand that has one product, you want to basically be more strategic with the segmentation. You can do something where you can segment between subscribers and non-subscribers, or you can segment between people that bought 1 versus people that bought 2 versus people that bought 3, because each one of those people has a different price sensitivity, and you can upsell them very different things. And the goal with this is, once you kind of crack this, as long as you're using logic, you're going to be able to get a very high performing and converting funnel. And you want to be doing this on an ongoing basis, because backend CRO is just as important as front-end CRO, and it should be always aligned. And I'm going to get to that in a second. Just want to drop a quick note in here. If you're an e-com brand that's doing anywhere from 7 to 9 figures, and you're trying to scale the brand, and you want to try to liquidate 80% of your CAC, just like I showed you with post-purchase funnels, without adding all the complexity to your backend and all this kind of stuff, we actually do this for a living. Believe it or not, we're the only agency out there in the world that does one thing and one thing only, which is building post-purchase funnels for e-com brands and optimizing it. We're literally the only people that do this. We're at the top ranks when it comes to after sales, highest performing partners, and we actively work with 8 and 9 figure brands on a monthly basis, building and testing split tests for them every single week. We handle everything from the setup, the split testing, the optimization, and everything in between to find the exact funnel that makes the most amount of profit for your business, completely hands-free from you, so you can focus on scaling what really matters, which is the front end. Because without all that traffic, we can't generate anything anyways. First link in the description will show you exactly how we do it. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of this as well. When we talk about backend CRO, and it means, the actual word of the term, like, conversion rate optimization, but on the back end, which means it's constant and ongoing. You do not want to just set and forget these funnels. This is kind of where you're at in the first place and where a lot of people are, where they kind of just set up these funnels once and they forget about them. You want to be doing this on an ongoing basis. And there's a lot of different tests that you can do. For starters, we're just gonna go with the very, very basic. If you have a sale ongoing, so, let's say it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, let's say it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day, all that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that there is cohesiveness and alignment between your front end and your back end. That means that all of the copy should match and it should be related. That means that all of the UI elements as well need to also match. That means that also the offer itself and the pricing and the actual product itself needs to align with that upsell, with that sale. So for example, like a lot of people, what will do, they'll slash their sales on the front end, like they'll lower their actual AOV. Let's say they sell a product for 80 bucks, they're gonna sell it for $60. What's gonna happen is that their upsells are still set at a certain discount, where then the difference between the front end and the back end is like 5%, which then people are not going to take. And what you'll see is your performance of your funnels will dwindle during sale periods, when instead, if you just price this a little bit more aggressively because of the front end sale, this would actually maintain and you would actually just make a ton more money. And what we've also found is that people during, high intent times like sales and stuff like that, what they do is they tend to convert a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to convert these customers. So what you can do is you can play around with even higher prices, especially if you're selling different products than the main product. And if you position it the right way with the right angle, you can actually make more money than the normal day with the same exact funnel. So that's something that's very, very, interesting that we've kind of tested over and over again, and it just seems to work every single time. And, again, this creates what we call like a scale accelerator effect, where basically, during sale periods, you're cutting your front end prices or you're offering discounts, which makes your margins go down even more. So these funnels are even more important now than ever, because a lot of times what people do is they either run at break even or at a slight loss during sales. Maybe if you're very lucky and you have very, very good margins, you might be at a slight profit. During times like this where you're trying to hit like 100, 200, 300K a day, like consistently. So with our clients, and especially our brands that we work with that are doing those numbers, like, 100, 200, 300K a day consistently, when they go to those sales days and they're doing like $1 million a day or 2 million a day, these margins become super slim at very big numbers. And just 1% increase can be the difference between like massive profitability or loss. And that's where having these funnels set up, where you take full advantage of this, like this gap right here, if you're actually doing ongoing CRO on the back end properly, the same way you're investing on your front end, that gap right there is going to be that buffer of 2 to 5% in net margin. That's going to make all the difference when you're scaling at those like, $1 million, $2 million a day. So it's very, very important that you continue doing this on the back end every single month and every single week. And to just give you the cadence of how we do things, we test every single week. So we might test something this week, let it run till next week, test something else next week, let it run next week, etc. In the middle of these, especially if it's a brand that has a lot of high volume, like mid AOV with super high volume, we're probably going to test like probably 2 or 3 other funnels in the middle here. And what we're trying to optimize for, to be quite frank with you, is not the metric that most people talk about. Now, RPV is, let's say, the main North Star that everybody looks at. And the goal is to have this as high as possible. Well, there's a world where increasing RPV can actually decrease one of the more important metrics, which are called profit per visit, PPV. And this is what we optimize for with all the accounts and all the brands that we work on, is we want to maximize the amount of profit we make per each customer visiting the funnel. And what this means is a couple things. Now, the best part is if you're using an app called Aftersell, and I'm gonna write this down here. They're the brand that the app that we use for every single account that we're running funnels for on Shopify. Aftersell right there. They actually allow you to have your COGS in Shopify. So you have the COGS on the back end of your Shopify store. Then you can actually unlock PPV tracking, which means you can now track your profit per visit of your funnels. Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna split test different prices every week. You're gonna split test different product orders. You're gonna split test all of this stuff. And what you want to see and what a lot of people try to optimize for is conversion rate. But the problem is there is a world where increasing conversion rate lowers profit, and post-purchase is a profit game. It's not a game where you want to maximize revenue again, because you're just going to hurt the goal that's here, which is try to increase AOV profitably. So By doing that, you're actually hurting yourself. Instead, I would sacrifice conversion rate for a higher profit per visit any day of the week, because we want to maximize the amount of profit we make from these funnels. And that's one thing that I think is very, very important that a lot of people forget about, and they just keep testing to have the highest conversion rate possible. So in summary, it's very important for you to split test every single week and try to increase your profit per visit as much as possible, so that the more scale you accomplish with your front end, you're going to see your back end scaling with you, and it's inevitable to hit 10, 15, or 20K a day profit every day from these post-purchase funnels, and use that money to invest into scaling higher and higher. Just to recap, this is exactly how we help our brands doing 10 to 100 million a year liquidate 80% of their cost of acquisition using these funnels, and how you can build the exact same funnels following our strategy to achieve the same results. Now, if you're a brand that's doing 10 to 100 million a year and you don't want to bother doing this, or you don't want to add more complexity, or quite honestly, your post-purchase isn't generating enough revenue right now to justify the cost of building an entire team, this is literally where our team fits into. Like I've mentioned before, we are the largest agency in the world that does post-purchase. We literally do this one thing and one thing only for a living. So if you want to see if you qualify to work with us on our done for you, completely guaranteed service, we work on a 100% performance basis. There's no retainers, nothing like that. First link in the description, click that button and check us out. And make sure you subscribe to see some of the more content that I'm going to drop on here, because I'm just going to continue to show you how you can build these funnels for yourself.